Moliki means crumbs. So after dinner, after you're sitting around the table and everyone talking and drinking their little digestivo and having the last sip of espresso, generally the mom of the family will say, okay, everyone, let's clean up the moliki, the crumbs. But in families with Jewish traditions, they don't use that word. They use the word chametz. And Joanne she didn't understand why there were a whole group of words and phrases that were not common to Italian, but she thought they were part of the mountain dialect, when in actuality they are part of the dialect, but they are derivative of the Hebrew language. It took my discussions with her, also my discussions with my husband, who uses the word chametz for all kinds of crumbs, and he said, oh, that's a dialect word. I said, no, that is a Hebrew word, may be used in dialect, but it is a Hebrew word. Of course, chametz means the crumbs of the leavening that we clean away to ready ourselves for Passover, when we eat no leavened bread. What I like to do, I'm going to hold this up here. I don't know how this will show, but this is La Lingua dei Padri, the language of our fathers. And it is a dictionary. It is the dictionary of the Levantino dialect, and the Levantino dialect would mean Lamezia and all of the surrounding mountain towns. And it takes kind of dogged work, if you will, to just go page by page. And I'm going to give you an example of what I did when I heard chametz. I looked it up, and I found that it says that it is a bruscolino, spazzatura, and pagliuca, which are words for crumbs and things that you throw away. But then it also says foreign, una parola strana, a strange foreign word, and it is spelled with, interestingly enough, with a CH, chametz, just like we say it in Hebrew. And that's what I do. I go page by page, and when I hear some of these words and phrases, I look them up right away to see if they are considered to be strange words and if they have a Hebrew derivative.
Wow. So families in Calabria that are not from Jewish background might not even know what these words mean either. It might only be a family thing.
It might only be a family thing, and that's a very important point, because when we talked earlier in one of our earlier broadcasts, I think our first episode, we talked about asking the right questions. And many times I would ask people, do you think you were once Jewish? And they'd say, no. And then I started to say, what kinds of things do you do as a family that may be different from other Italians? And that's what opened the door. And so I start asking about words people use, and I said, do you ever use any dialect words that are common only to your family and not to other people in the area? And that's where I start to hear what people hear words and hear and start to translate them and understand exactly what they mean. Famale is another one. Make you sick. Famale. Now, if you eat undercooked meat, it will make you sick. Famale. But the phrase famale is used among families if you put on the table a latticini, cheese, when you're serving a meat meal. The minute the cheese comes on the table, or the other way around, when the meat comes on the table, if you're serving mozzarella and pomodori and tomatoes, immediately the families with Jewish origins will say famale, famale. I mean, in other words, it should not be on the table with the meat. The meat, I should say, the meat and the cheese should be separate.
Rabbi, I have a question, and this may or may not even make sense, but as I was listening to you, it kind of came to me. When people don't know where these, I'll call them family words, come from, are they often considered what I guess we would call here in the English language more of slang, because they're not traceable to the Italian dialect? Or is that how they're viewed, as slang words? Not in a bad way, slang. I don't mean it, in a vulgar word, but
like a parolacce, like a bad word. Yeah, no, a vulgar word. No. What's really confusing is the idea of dialect in Italian versus accents in American English. For example, there are different words and phrases that people use in the South that you don't hear in the North, that are used in the West that you don't hear in the East. But generally speaking, the language is the same.